United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon says the international community cannot continue to ignore the suffering in the Sudanese region of Darfur. Mr. Ban made the comments in the Republic of Congo on his way to the African Union summit in Ethiopia that starts on Monday. He says he'll ask for firm commitments from the Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir. Dr. Greg Stanton served in the US State Department, where he drafted the United Nations Security Council resolutions that created the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. He's currently president at Genocide Watch and is with the International Campaign to End Genocide. He says Mr. Ban needs to get assurances from the AU to protect civilians and relief workers.
The first commitment he needs to get is, of course, the Sudanese cooperation with allowing UN troops in. The second is to have the UN troops and African Union troops have rules of engagement that are really able to protect civilians and humanitarian relief workers. Just this last week, 22 humanitarian relief workers were attacked by Sudanese police. So this is a very serious situation right now. 300 refugees have just been killed this past month. So the third, I believe, is probably something that the Sudanese president is not going to necessarily agree to, but nevertheless needs to be pursued, and that is justice. The International Criminal Court is probably going to indict some of the Sudanese leaders during the next month, and means are going to need to be found to put those people on trial.
And Ban Ki-moon's predecessor, Kofi Annan, thought at one time he'd managed to get agreement from the Sudanese government to allow these peacekeepers in, but then that all fell apart. So what kind of political pressure needs to be applied, perhaps through the UN and sanctions?
Yes, I think that sanctions need to be applied, targeted sanctions, that is, against some of the leadership, finances and travel and so forth, but also diplomatic pressure by key nations. And I particularly think about China, which has been buying most of the Sudanese oil, and which in fact has a lot of influence there, has been selling the weapons. China needs to step up to the plate and show that it's a responsible nation. And I think unless it does, that the next step is going to have to be to tell China, look, we're going to have to start rethinking about our relationships with you. So I think that sort of diplomatic pressure really needs to be applied here.
You talk about rules of engagement to ensure that there's greater scope for the soldiers deployed to actually do something useful on the ground. But they are peacekeepers after all, they're not combatants. And will countries really want to offer troops if they're going to be under more fire than we've seen so far?
Well, that'll be one of the key questions, of course. The current rules of engagement of the African Union troops only really allow them to be observers. They have to simply watch while people are being murdered and raped. That cannot continue to go on. Under the UN Resolution 1706, the UN peacekeepers are in fact given a really robust mandate to protect civilians and humanitarian relief workers and so forth with force. And without the consent of the Sudanese government. And I think that the UN has simply got to make sure that it really does enforce that resolution. It's going to, however, take a good deal of persuasion.